Guys, welcome to another episode of Smash or Pass with JayBee,
Hey.
me Milly, and Smash.
Hello.
So guys, over the last few weeks we have started to review the Scooby Doo movies. We started all the way back with Zombie Island and we have worked up to Scooby Doo and the Cyber Chase. So if you are new, please go and check those out. And for those of you here for the Cyber Chase today and haven't seen this movie for a little while, we're just going to give you a quick recap. So for this one, Scooby and the gang are visiting an old school friend who is creating a video game based on their lives. So the menacing phantom virus has escaped from the computer, but can Mystery Inc. They must play through all the levels and find the Scooby snacks, but for them the game has an added complexity because the phantom virus has joined the game ready for the ultimate boss battle. But who has created the virus in the first place? So this was certainly, I think, a childhood favourite of mine. It was certainly one that seemed to be on like TV the most, so I think it's one that I was quite familiar with. And I think if we just take it right from the beginning, I think it started quite ominously. Like the music built quite a lot of suspense, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and all those kind of laboratory experiments, it almost seemed like a bit of a different film. Like it was going to focus a bit more on science. I guess another science fiction one, but I guess the reality was quite different. But I like the start of this, although I'm kind of surprised that you enjoy it as much, because I think last time you said that the Alien Invaders started a bit out of nowhere, and I kind of got that vibe rewatching it this time with this film, because it does set you up to be in a science lab. You know, there's chemicals, there's people in lab coats, but then it turns out to be like ICT computers, so I was a bit confused at first.
How about you, Smash? What did you think to the opening of the movie?
So I think, like Alien Invaders, I really like the music in the beginning of this one too. I can just like hear it in my head right now, and but this is the first one that we've done so far that is a true, what they call a cold open. And so like we're seeing the monster of the movie before the gang, so we kind of have a little more information than they do at the start. And for me personally, I really like cold opens for Scooby Doo because it's that moment of like, ooh, this could be real, this couldn't. You know, it's kind of that pivotal moment of like, you know, you can really make or break your monster here in the beginning.
I agree, because not only that, what I adore about us seeing the monster before the gang is like quite often it means that characters that aren't necessarily that we're like used to seeing ghouls and goblins are seeing them as well, so it builds up a bit more suspense. You know, I kind of feel that they kind of waste the virus's suspense later on, where they kind of just beat him up within the first 5 minutes, but in this opening, when it's with some scared scientists, it actually really does work.
Yeah, they certainly seem very, like, worried. And then I like how you go from all that built-up suspense, all that fear, to a really kind of nice, peaceful countryside drive where they're in the mystery machine. Shaggy and Scooby are just playing their games, and it's like you have no idea what's in store for you. You don't know what's going to be at that uni when you arrive.
No, like, it is such a contrast, but just on that contrast, the art style, or I guess the animation style, seemed quite different. I feel it was more like what we would see later on versus, say, Zombie Island.
Yeah, so this is the very first Scooby-Doo production to be done totally digital, so there's no painting or drawing done with this movie. It is all digital, so that's kind of why it looks a lot different. And this is the first Scooby-Doo, the oldest Scooby-Doo movie that has been re-released on Blu-ray.
Oh. See, I'm always curious about Blu-ray animation, because I guess a part of me understands with live action, I guess you can make things seem more real, but I don't know what they would do with animation. I guess they would just refine things. I'm not really sure.
Let me try to explain it to you a little bit. Not that this really pertains to the movie, but again, it is kind of a pivotal point for Scooby that this movie was re-released on Blu-ray, because we're kind of hoping they go back further. Give us Zombie Island on Blu-ray, please. But for animation-wise, 2 years ago, they finally released the original series, Scooby Doo, Where Are You, on Blu-ray for the first time. And basically what they do with the Blu-ray, at least like older stuff like this, is they're able to really clean up the film reels, and so like take out the grime and gunk that have built up through the years, and they really make the colors pop. And so like for the Cyber Chase, for example, because I do have it on Blu-ray, it's just the colors just pop off the screen so well, and the animation, like the movement and stuff, is a lot more fluid because the frame rate is a bit higher on Blu-ray. So I mean, it's a lot of technical stuff, but the basis is for, at least for animation, like this type of animation, it really just refines the lines of, like, you know, the characters, the background, and really makes colors pop out more.
So I guess going back to, I guess, Millie and I's, Nintendo channel route, it's a little bit like what they did for 3D All-Stars in terms of like Mario 64, almost like a remaster.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. See, the thing is, I never ever got into Blu-rays, I'm still a bit of a dinosaur in that I will have bookshelf after bookshelf of DVDs, to the point where sometimes I'm like putting myself in financial crisis because I'm like, no, I don't want to download this. I want to keep it. I want to hold it. I want to hug it. But I don't know about Blu-rays.
See, my dad really likes Blu-ray. I don't know if I think JayBee has, but I don't know if you've seen Hannah Montana, the movie. But at the end, there's like a group of hundreds of people, and he pauses the end of the movie every time we watch it. Like, look at the colours, look how you can see all these individual people. And my mum just sits and laughs at him, but it's like a ritual. Whenever that movie is on, it was the first thing we ever saw in Blu-ray. So every time he will pause it and be like, and get everyone in the room to be like, look, just appreciate this, look at this. It is different. Yeah, there is a new level.
It is a new level, and even so last year when Scoob came out, it was the first Scooby Doo media to ever be released on 4K Blu-ray, and so me being a freak, I bought a 4K player specifically for Scoob, and so I mean, it's like Blu-ray looks amazing. You take that one level up to even the 4K Blu-ray, and it's just crazy. And even the 4K player that I have is able to upscale my DVDs and Blu-ray, so like it can almost make my Blu-rays look 4K, and then it makes my DVDs look Blu-ray-esque. Yeah. It's crazy what they do.
I almost feel a bit too old for 4K, because I've never even heard of it. I thought that was just like an add-on bonus sticker thing. Oh, I'd love to watch the original 2002 movie in 4K. In fact, how much are 4K players?
You need to get it released in 4K first.
Yeah, oh, is it in 4K?
Yeah. They only have it on Blu-ray so far.
I'm going to get a Blu-ray player.
Really? Okay, so bringing it back to the Cyber Chase. So we see the return of the kind of older looking outfits, and by that I mean kind of like the ones that indicate they've aged up. So they changed out for the last movie, which was quite refreshing. I know that I'm quite I'm quite traditional with Scooby Doo. I really like the originals, so see these again, I was like, no, I thought we'd moved away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're not fantastic, although to be fair, I think they look a bit better, I guess, in this more, less hand-drawn setting, more computer-generated setting, because I think there's just something about the look that looks a bit brighter that makes me not dislike it as much. I mean, Fred still looks a bit bland, but in terms of Daphne's suit, I think in the old style it had a tendency to look a bit blocky, a bit like a Minecraft skin, but now it looks not too bad. And I didn't mind that at all. But I think this is a very interesting choice because they go to the university where they say that an old schoolmate works or is studying at. But it's kind of like nothing is telling you where this is taking place, right? Because obviously, even if it is a schoolmate, they could have moved out of Coolsville or Crystal Cove. So
they're certainly having to travel
Yeah.
somewhere. It looks like they're kind of in quite a remote space.
see, I don't know, because it seems like a university in the middle of nowhere. But I don't know if a university would be in the middle of nowhere.
See, my kind of next question was about when they're actually inside the mystery machine and they're playing the games. So you can actually get a Cyber Chase game for, I want to say, is it the Game Boy?
Yeah, I ordered it because I played Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed on the Game Boy Advance and I loved it. And I feel like I did play Cyber Chase, but I don't know. So hopefully I would have played it by next episode and I can have a little tangent about that. But
I guess
I don't know.
framing this as a question maybe for Smash.
Smash.
Have you played any of the Scooby Doo games? Do you have a particular favourite?
So, okay, this is where I'm kind of bad because I have played Scooby Doo video games, just not a lot. I did have the Cyber Chase game for Game Boy. It also came out, I believe, on the PlayStation 2, and that was like they're two different versions of the game. Like the Game Boy version isn't the same as the PlayStation version, but I played the Game Boy one, and I always thought that one was so hard because it was one of those like if you died, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, and so I never felt like I could beat it. But otherwise, I know a lot of people's favorites is Night of 100 Frights, which that one is so much fun. I really, really wish they would remaster it and release it for the Switch because I feel like that one kind of deserves to come back. Otherwise, one that I really liked was on like the DS, I believe. I want to say it was like Scooby Doo Unmasked or something like that. I really liked that one. I never did get to play the Game Boy Scooby Doo 2 game, but I have played and still own the computer PC video game version of it.
Man, I was addicted to that. Like, I think that's the one where you can have like little dance off with monsters in the photos, isn't it? Like,
Yes.
See, that's
Yeah.
the only time JB's ever liked leaving his room is there's a computer in the kitchen area. And that was the only time he ever wanted to socialise with his family was when he was playing games like that on the computer. So he'd actually agree to go and sit in one of the more like communal areas so he could play the game.
I think there's literally a level where you can play a Shaggy or Scooby devouring the cotton candy glove. It's actually fantastic. But I proved myself to be a bit more intelligent because there's this level in the Game Boy Advance Scooby Doo 2 game where you need to fix the control panel, and I must have put weeks and weeks and weeks trying to do that as a kid. And I just recently replayed it and I like completed the whole game in an hour.
Hey.
So
Yeah.
that's good omens. But I don't know, in terms of Scooby Doo games, Millie, I guess you probably didn't play many of them.
I can't think of any that I did play.
I'm not saying that I played many of like the console games. I was addicted to I don't know if they're made for CD things. They came in like those old physical packagings, the CD-ROM cases. But there was one, I think it's called, is it What a Night for a Night? There's like one where you're going against the Black Knight Ghost, and it's kind of like this play-along story. There's another one about a stone dragon. Like, I was addicted to playing those. Like, oh.
So there's a handful of those. I still own a handful of them, but they're like the point and click games.
Yeah.
I love those ones because it was like you're just playing an episode out, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, I would love to play that again. There was one with this like bug as well, this insect.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that's literally, man. I guess this is just a tangent. We're just talking about games, but I guess when you're talking about the Cybertruck, like in no other, movie could we go on a tangent about Scooby games.
That's very true. It's an opportunity, JB. So, one thing that I liked at this, like again, kind of in the start of the movie, that they seem to have brought across almost from Alien Invaders is, you know how they were like almost changing the shape of Scooby, so it was the rattlesnake and things. I remember finding it hilarious as a child when he was mimicking the security guard.
Officer Wembley.
I don't know why I found that so funny when I was young, but it always used to make me laugh. I think it's because I find this movie gets so serious so quickly that it was just like a nice bit of refreshing humor at the start.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. And that Officer Wembley, I don't know if he's like voiced by someone iconic, but I always remembered the performance as being memorable in this, even down to them going, a wise guy, eh? Like, the amount of times I must have quoted that when I was little.
Speaking of voices, I know you said one thing you wanted to mention for this was the voice of Daphne.
Yeah, so this is Grey Griffin's first Daphne voice. Now, I actually really do miss Mary Kay Bergman, but at the same time, I really like Grey's Daphne voice. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels kind of wrong for me to say that I don't really miss or notice much of a loss with that last in terms of performance wise. Obviously, I think the story is different when it shifts from Grey to Heather, but I like Grey's performance in this a lot, and I'm glad that they decided to stick with her later down the line.
Yeah, not only did I like her voice, but, and I think we'll kind of maybe mention this a little bit more later, at the end of the movie we actually watched all the special features, and just kind of how she was speaking about how she approached the role. I quite like her as a person as well, and I think, like you were saying, you don't want to say that it didn't feel like there was a loss. I think it was that maybe she dealt with it quite respectfully. She obviously took inspiration.
Yeah, and I think Smash was saying in an earlier
why it was
episode,
such a good match.
they knew each other, didn't they? I think she was like the mentor.
Yeah, so Mary Kay Bergman was Grey Griffin's mentor and kind of coach for voice acting. So she was being taught by her, and so she kind of followed along with her short run of being Daphne. So she kind of picked up on it right before she passed away.
Oh, see, that is good, and I think the thing that I enjoy about this most of the time, in terms of, I guess, these voice actors, is that you really get the sense, and I guess the odd one out is Velma, unfortunately, in terms of, I guess, passing on the torch, but I've heard that, you know, Casey Kasem approved Matthew Lillard, obviously Mary Kay Bergman had connections with Grey, and obviously Frank Welker's been there since day one. I just like how it just seems like it is very much people continuing a torch to make it, like, you show that the franchise stays iconic. And I like that about it a lot.
I mean, as you were saying, I think that's why you can see a difference with Velma. Like, there is sometimes when we watch things, especially The Sword and the Scoob, and I just feel myself just cringing when I hear them speak for the first time.
It's mean to say, but it is a bit.
Okay, I've worded that quite nastily.
The Mystery Incorporated era, Linda Cardellini, even the Velma from Curse of the Lake Monster and Mystery Begins. It's kind of like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
I just wording it a bit nicer. I think, as you know, JayBee was saying, there's a certain voice that you associate with Shaggy, with Daphne, with Fred, but because it's changed, I think, I don't know if I'm wrong here, but I think it's changed on quite a few, you know, more occasions with Velma, that it's kind of, you don't know what to expect with Velma's voice sometimes.
Yeah, like it was in Mystery Incorporated, I think it was like Mindy something, and then then who was it? Then, well, obviously in these it's BJ Ward, and now it's, I think, Kate Mincini. I don't know.
I will say I like BJ Ward as a good. They're a good Velma voice. I think when I think Velma, these are the things that are instantly popping up from my childhood, where I'm like, yeah, that's the voice.
I mean, I guess my question to Smash, because I think it's fair to say that this Cyberchase film is the end of an era, or I guess an end of a group of 4 films in their own right. Because after this, we never hear Scott Innes as Shaggy again, and we never hear BJ Ward again. In terms of behind the scenes details, were they aware that this was like the last one that they'd be in? Do you know, Smash?
So this movie had kind of a rough production because they wanted to do so much with this movie. And, you know, it was one of those, we have too many ideas and we're running out of time. We got to finish it type of thing. Because their original pitch for this, I think it would have been really, really cool. I don't know how it would have played out during that time, especially with the 2002 live action film not quite being out and being in production at that time. But what they originally wanted to do was when they go to action.
Oh yeah, wasn't it the last level that were meant to be live action?
Yep. And so, I don't know what happens, you know, like with them saying, hey, we're going to be done with you. I don't really know, because in the next movie, I have stories for the next 2 movies that we'll talk about when we get there. But the next voice over people for the next 2 movies were approached to do those specific movies. And so I'm not sure how these voiceovers, like for Velma and Daphne and Shaggy, were kind of told that they're going to be done. I do know, though, that Scott Ines still does and has been doing Shaggy in, like, if they're ever doing, like, Burger King commercials or the toy commercials, or he does Shaggy in the video games still. So he still is there sometimes.
That's amazing. I mean, again, touching on some like extra references that we got to see at the end, they were quite amazing. Like, seeing them sat there and just fluctuate between the 2 voices without an opportunity to kind of switch mindsets or anything. I respected that a lot.
Me too. Like, this is a great group, and I almost am kind of glad that live action thing didn't pan out, because who knows what that would have been like. Because I'm pretty sure back in 2001, the version of the 2002 movie that they were planning on was probably still that kind of weirder version. So I don't know if you would have had like almost like a Looney Tunes back in action type thing, where you're gonna have Freddie Prinze Jr. there with Linda Cardellini interacting with animated Fred and live action. You know, that would have been really nice, really cool. But at the same time, it's a bit like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to see the alternate universe, but I'm not sure.
I just don't know about like the time frame of it. You know, like maybe now I think would be cool to see, but like just back in 2001, especially again when they were working on the first live action film, I just don't know. I think I like with how they ended up doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd agree with that. I think we've seen in a couple of the other ones how as soon as producers and things get involved, mistakes can be made, like with the Green Witch, and then the Witch's Ghost just had a few questionable moments, like we said before, with the kind of producers having one image and directors having another. And I think that this, for me personally, this movie had quite a cohesive story. It stuck to it. There didn't appear to be too many variations. And I don't know, just some of the thought processes behind it. Like, I think considering when this movie was released, it was really forward in terms of technology. Because obviously technology was like appearing then. But I don't know, I just feel like they seem to have such a good concept on things behind the theories with this. Like when they're talking about how magnets can like interfere with some of the kind of like parts of the virus and stuff, they just seem to explain everything in a way that's quite cohesive. Like I know there's perhaps some movies where we'll come on to and there's explanations where I'm like, okay, that was a bit goofy, they could have done something a bit different there. But I like every part of the consideration and everything behind the scenes with this.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, for sure.
My kind of question about this, and I guess this is maybe more directed to SMASH, because I think it's fair to say that out of all of us, SMASH is more in tune with the kind of Scoob community. Do people consider the cyber chase to be one where the monsters are real or not?
So, okay, that's kind of difficult to answer. Kind of like, it's kind of like the sci-fi question that we've been having. Like, do people consider science fiction to be supernatural and stuff? But you know what I've seen within the community is that a lot more people who don't like real monsters or whatever in Scooby Doo actually accept this movie a lot more than, say, like Zombie Island or Witch's Ghost. So I think, I don't know. This is like the weird line between the supernatural and sci-fi, where it's like a lot more people accept this one for being real, but it's not exactly supernatural, is it?
I mean, I've heard this argument on YouTube. I forget the video, but it was kind of stating like something isn't supernatural if it makes sense within the world that it's in. So they could come up with some ridiculous thing like there's a Luigi particle that when it reacts to the Bowser Among Us element, it makes, monsters come to life. If they can explain that in a scientific environment within the world, it isn't paranormal. And I guess that's what they kind of do here. It's like, they say some stuff that's kind of all scientific. Like, Velma's like, oh yeah, I get it. They they store real things in the game so they can take it in and out. So, fair enough. If that happens in that world, then it's possible. But I was just kind of curious, because just the word phantom virus, I understand it's a computer virus, but I don't really understand the phantom thing. Because I think Daphne got it spot on, because this is just a thing, isn't it? It's a thingy.
Yeah, I'm still confused, and maybe smASH can offer some clarification on this, of the substance of this. Like, when it's interfered with the magnets and stuff, it seems to shake, almost like it's just pixelated, almost like you could throw something through it. Whereas when you see it in other settings, like when it's dressed as the like lady later in the game, it's carrying a bag, it seems quite sturdy, like you couldn't throw something at it. And also, similarly, when they meet the replicas of themselves at the end, when the magnet's there, again, they look almost pixels, like you could throw something through them. But ultimately, you see them eating, you see them kind of interacting like they are of a proper form. Do you know what they are supposed to be in terms of form? If they are just like you can throw things through it, like the virus and things, or...
So, okay, first I wanted to bring up JayBee talking about it being a phantom. I think why they call it a phantom virus is because Scooby Doo, for whatever reason, just likes to make everything a ghost. Like, you go back to the old episodes, and there's the ghost of Bigfoot, the ghost of the Loch Ness Monster. Has to be the ghost of something. It can't be the actual thing. I don't know why, but I think that's why it's a phantom virus, because it's the ghost of a virus. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. But to answer Millie, this is where it's kind of weird, because like when they bring out the magnet and the computer versions of the game and the virus do pixelate and are quote unquote hurt by it or whatever, the background of when they're in the video game, the background around them should be doing that too, because I don't know if you guys have ever taken a magnet up to an old television set. It like blacks out the picture where the magnet is. I did it to one of our TVs by accident when I was young. Luckily the picture came back. The picture doesn't always come back if you sit there too long, but I think it's supposed to be in that sense where it's that older technology, and so you get a magnet up to these electrons and computer gadgets and sciencey words, and it interferes with the signal for the picture to come out. But again, when they're in the computer world, it should do that to the scenery as well.
I guess I didn't think about that. See, like, I have thought of some things. Like, I did try and, like, I don't know, I'm being really critical when we're rewatching these movies. Like, why does this do this? Why does that do that? And ultimately, that's one that I haven't thought about. Like, okay, so there's like one, maybe two that I skipped over that I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, at the start when he's doing some kind of experiment, but they're supposed to be like specializing in computers. I was like,
Yeah.
why is he messing with a chemistry set when they're creating a computer program. Like I said, when we've been rewatching these, I've been like so analytical, but that is something that I just completely didn't think about.
Yeah, and I guess in hindsight, I just saw the Phantom Virus and thought of, say, Electro from Spider-Man, or even the 10,000 Volt Ghost in a way.
Yeah.
So I just assumed that, and this is a weird analogy, but I assumed that if you went over to the Phantom Virus and licked it, you'd get an electric shock. I just thought it was an energy purely from electricity. But I don't know. It's an interesting way of looking at it, and again, I kind of don't really want a sequel to this movie, to be honest. But I kind of am curious to know more about the Phantom Virus's origins. Like, obviously, spoiler alert, obviously we find out later that Bill creates it. But it's like, why does the Phantom Virus have baseball characteristics? Was it just because he was coded, or they were coded in the baseball game? Or did Bill imprint some personality, like Ultron?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that JayBee suggested when we were watching this was, you'd almost think that somebody had created it to frame them by dropping those references in. Why would they feel the need to? Was it something that they'd transported over from their other game, so there was some kind of memory attached to it?
I would legit accept a sequel if the sequel revealed that it was actually the main professor who just put in blatant baseball references to frame the other guy. It just seemed very obvious.
So I think I have to agree with you in that I don't think I really want a sequel to this one. First off, I feel like this movie is definitely a product of its time, and so it's like you kind of have to accept the little disbelief of, oh, they have modern technology, but they also don't, type of thing. But I also do see where you're coming from. I would like to know, why, they made it, how he made it and stuff. My thought with it as to why he's saying all the baseball references and stuff, because that really gave it away really fast. But I'm wondering if he used some of his code from his baseball game that he made to make this virus, and so that's kind of how it slipped through. That's my reasoning.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because that's what they're currently working on. And again, just taking the time into a factor, I guess. Again, I just feel like I've got into a bad habit of patronising the early 2000s, but I'm guessing they don't have as much memory data that you'd have now. Maybe some stuff does have to be reused. I assume they're not USBing stuff right, left and centre, but that is possible. And again, I think a sequel, I don't know, they could do one, but I kind of feel that they would do the craziest movie ever, and it would just end up being Velma ripping off a VR headset off them all at the end.
Yeah.
Oops. We didn't notice that this was on the whole time.
Yeah, you didn't feel a VR headset.
But I like the premise, I'll say that, because I think out of all of them, this may be the one that I watched the most.
See, I like the premise as well. I also so once they get inside the games, I also like the levels. I think if you were going to create different places, these are quite common. I think the way that they focused in on the moon and then the Colosseum, then the diners, and then started to montage over the rest was done really well, in terms of how they proportionalized the times.
I mean, here's one thing I noticed. Before they get zapped in, when you see the silhouette or the shadow
it's
pressing
quite
the button,
obviously
someone in a lab coat, right?
Yeah, it's quite obviously someone in a lab coat.
It's
not
obviously
only that,
not Wembley.
but you can tell by the size of the hand, it's not Wembley. It's probably not the professor either. It looks like quite a young hand. So instantly you've narrowed it down to 2 people.
And I don't know how they could have done that. I guess.
And unless the other guy was some kind of super fan, Mystery Inc. played my game, they were in my game, it only leaves one out, really.
Yeah, so that was a bit disappointing. I'm also kind of disappointed, and again, maybe it's because it makes me cry, that coming straight from the Alien Invaders, when they just had to say goodbye to Crystal and Amber, that they appear on like a space level, and they're not a bit like, oh, this is like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
true.
I don't want to see them suffer, but I kind of wish there was a bit of like some subtle
Yeah.
animation just going, oh, what could have been. But it's a decent first level, because here's the thing. Well, I've got a bit of an opinion about the first two levels, and I'm not sure if anyone feels the same way, but my initial reaction is that in terms of people watching the film, they need to make the first level be so intriguing, so different that it reminds people of the scope of the movie and the potential that it
Yeah.
has, to the point where the space level is fantastic. It looks great, it's out there, and then level 2 is just, it's Earth, it's a
Yeah,
Roman
level
Colosseum.
2, I have a few issues with. So the baseball thing is completely overdone there to the point where they are literally doing this on a baseball court. Also, where the second they put on the kind of, is it called a toga or something?
I think
Shaggy
so.
and Scooby, they are unrecognizable to the skeletons. It's like, oh come on, that's a bit, it's a bit too far.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if they're programmed in the game, they know what characters are there or whatever. They know who to interact with and how to interact with what. Like, in the end, when there's all the villains, you don't see them turning on each other because they are programmed to know what to do.
Although, here's what I'll say. If Eric knows them from high school, a major trope, I guess, early on would be for the gang to get into uniform, to pretend to be other people, to kind of role play and act with the ghost, with the monster, to get away. It could be that Eric's almost... Because you'd be playing as the Scooby Gang anyway, maybe dressing up to fool the monster would be a coded thing in the game anyway.
Could be true.
Like, I don't know. I guess there's just an easy-ish way to sort things out, but honestly, I don't know. I guess here's what I'll ask. Smash, do you have a favourite level from this game?
I think my favorite is I don't know what level it technically was, but the one, the prehistoric world where they're with the dinosaurs and stuff. I think that mainly has to do though because I love Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and all that, and so I thought that one was a lot of fun. I have a question I want to shoot back at you guys though once you're done with my little thing.
No, I think that's a really good level. I mean, JB was asking me earlier what level he thought that we'd actually reach in this game, and that was the one where I was like, okay, that would get us because there's such a slim chance that you'd have found that cave with the painting on, to then understand what it meant, to then get back in time to be able to climb up as high as the bird's nest without the kind of adult bird attacking you or something. Like, I don't know, I feel like that one was definitely where, like, it was, okay, you needed Scooby or that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, right.
Or like you need to be some crazy climber. I mean, you'd assume in the game that if you like got lavaed, it would just say, "Oh, use another life, play again." But if you're an actual person, it's like you have to time everything so well. Like if you just spend some time exploring or find the woolly mammoths first, the Scooby snacks are just flamed and you're there forever.
Yeah.
Like that almost
Yeah,
seems like a more
right?
difficult level than the final level.
So, Smash, what was your question?
Okay, so I I do really enjoy this movie, especially because it's nostalgic for me and I think all of us. But my one thing with this movie that has always bugged me, and I don't know I want to see how you guys feel about it, is when they go into the computer game, there's like no difference in how they look or how they can move or, I mean, besides like the moon level or whatever. But I really wish they would have done like at least some sort of different animation style for when they were in the video game to kind of represent they're in a video game. Otherwise, it looks like they're just kind of like traveling through time almost.
See, I would have liked that as well. And I don't know what direction they could have gone in, because especially in the time, we could have been stuck with, like, I want to say an 8-bit Scooby Gang type look, which
Yeah.
would have been alright. Just, I think, a bit jarring if you have to look at that for a while and they're having to deliver dialogue. But definitely there could have been stuff done. In fact, I would have almost liked it if they either found a replacement for the cyber doubles, or maybe that they would have even looked like the cyber doubles when they got into the game.
Mm-hmm.
That may have been a better choice.
Yeah.
And it would have been quite classic as well. It would have felt like everything would have felt like a classic episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, you go. Because I think I was going to go on a tangent because I've written something and it's always annoyed me.
No, like I was just thinking about what Smash was saying, and I completely agree with it. I just can't think what I personally would have done to signify that. I mean, I like what JayBee said about maybe going back to the original
health
outfits.
bars, I guess. Health bars at the top.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But like, I think you were talking about how it was kind of attached to when they get brought into the game. That just them being brought in is something that annoys me. Like how they could put the Scooby snacks in, get them straight out. How, like, if the other characters finish the level, they just go back to the beginning. But if these ones do it, it knows instantly to remove them. It's just like, okay, there's a couple of little gaps there that I don't like. But, I don't know. I think JayBee maybe said that at some points it appears that they complicated things and it left us with more questions, like how they could just zap the Scooby snacks straight back out. It left us with the kind of, okay, why did they need to finish the game kind of thing that it didn't necessarily need to.
I mean, I can forgive that because it is the demo, and I suppose that when you're demoing things, they want to take this to a conference or a presentation, so that you kind of want to wow people in that demo. But I honestly, my thing that's always annoyed me with this is Eric. Eric is a good guy, but he's just a coward. Okay, like at what point does he not think or even entertain the possibility of zapping himself into the game, saying, okay, this is where they're on this level, that level, this level, and here's the quickest way to get to it? Like, why does he never do that?
Yeah, that's true.
He just sits there going, isn't this terrible? They're going to have to complete the whole game. This is the worst.
Yeah, and he acknowledges how he's completed every level except the final one. Like, okay, we know you can do it. Go and do it.
Like, he's coded it. For all he's not, like, playtested it, he knows stuff.
There was one thing that, like, I know you're saying that was something that kind of, like, winds you up. There's one thing that kind of, like, gets me in this movie, and that is, I was kind of, like, saying that I didn't really like the outfits at the start. In the second level, where, like, Daphne's like, I don't want to give you my jacket, it's new. I was like, no, it's not. You've been wearing it for the last, like, 3 movies. Just stop now.
Right.
In absolute defense to that, though, every single one of the movies has taken place within one day, including this one, which seems to take place between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. latest, in terms of the real world. Because they say, Eric says to them that they're going to go and get lunch before, like, after the demonstration, and the first thing they do when they get back is go and have lunch. So I assume it's a day, so she could have bought it last week. Well, that could have counted as new. And then they just encountered zombies, aliens, witches, and phantom viruses. I guess they're busy. But maybe.
I guess one of my last questions, perhaps on the levels themselves, kind of reframing something JayBee asked me, so this one's for you, Smash. What level do you think you'd have found most difficult? So there was the moon level, the Colosseum, the dinos, then they go under the sea, then they're really small in the garden, there's the samurai, the mummy, the dragon, and the North Pole, all before the last level. Which one of those do you think looked the most difficult?
So, okay. I know which one I'm going to say, but I have 2 points as to why. So I'm going to say the one when they're, like, diving when they're in the water. Because, I have an absolute fear of being under the water. I don't know how to swim. I don't want to know how to swim. Okay, short story, I don't like going underwater because my doctors have told me that going underwater is the same feeling as going down for surgery, which, I've had many of because of my heart condition. But also, water levels in video games always seem to be the hardest for me. And so I'm like, I would die immediately in that one.
Okay, so it sounds like you'd get further than us because we said that I certainly said we'd struggle with the level before that. So,
Although in that water game, the Scooby snacks are like right next to them.
yeah, but there's like an electric eel or something swimming in between, isn't there?
I think if I passed
Yeah,
out
there was
under
a
there, I
shark.
could float down and I could probably touch the Scooby snacks. I mean, I'm not meant to dive because of my brain thing, but I think if I like keeled over, I could float down and maybe my shoulder
JayBee.
could make touch with, like in Aladdin when like the genie wakes up and saves him. I think I would do that. I'd pass out, land on the snacks, and I'd do it.
This is another issue that I had when we were kind of watching this, is how do they know who to teleport when they get to the Scooby snacks? Like, only one of them's touching it, yet it seems to transport all 5 of them. Then it tends to transport the phantom virus as well.
I mean,
It was ultimately designed just to do the
Yeah.
kind of characters that were created inside the game.
I mean, is the game meant to be played with a controller, or are you meant to zap yourself in to play it?
A controller, so they could play it in the back of the mystery machine like before, I think.
Because imagine though that just even by today's standards, that is not like a disabled friendly game. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah.
Like game consoles get so much like hype about them now when there's like inclusivity, but could you imagine like
Hmm.
in a wheelchair you end up on the moon level? It's not good, and that's my issue because there doesn't seem to be a correspondence between, and I always got confused, like there's episodes of say Phineas and Ferb where they put themselves into a computer game. The premise of this is going into a computer game, so I never know if this is just there's 3 separate projects. There's the stinky baseball game, the cool Scooby game, and the laser that brings things from real life into the game and vice versa, but they're not related at all. Is that right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly linked. Like the laser can be linked to take things into the game, as you've seen, but it seemed to ultimately exist before either of the games did. It was kind of like maybe some form of 3D printing type thing.
It just seems dangerous, right?
Yeah.
But you'd want to, like, I thought that they could have framed this as a very much a movie ahead of its time, because both of them in conjunction with each other is a good premise. Like, we are so obsessed these days with games in trying to be more immersed. We've got virtual reality on the Xbox and PlayStation front. We've got augmented reality with things like Mario Kart Home Circuit. Like, in this day and age, the more involved in a game you can be is kind of like the thing. And so I guess it's more difficult for me to watch this and separate those two things. Like, they're just playing a game like Mario Galaxy, except in the same room there's a transportation device.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just can't separate the two in my mind. But I guess I need to refer to my notes a bit, because I'm kind of all over the place with this review. So I mean, I'm a bit disappointed that they seemingly montage over the coolest parts of the film, but the music's great. But it's like,
Okay.
oh,
Okay, I wanted to bring that up too, because as much as the last level is so fun where they're with, past villains and themselves, I'm like, there are so many cool levels I feel like that they just passed over, and I know it's because of time, they didn't really have time to sit and do all those, but I'm like, could we have shortened something else to see these levels? And I mean, the montage was fun, I won't deny that, and the song's really fun too that plays. But I have to agree, I really get bothered with this montage, because I'm like, here's what I feel like they should have done. Instead of a movie, they should have made this a 1-season series, and each episode they go through a level.
That would be amazing.
yes. Oh, see, that's what they could do. Instead of a sequel, they could almost do like a fill-in.
And I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been really easy to shorten it, because if you look at the last level, they split up and face all of the villains independently. They then come back together and then face them all the second time. You could have easily just halved that.
And to be fair, and maybe this is a credit to the movie, when Millie and I first finished watching this for this podcast, we were like, that feels about half an hour shorter than all the others. Like it started, they got into the game, and then it felt like they were on the last level, just like that. But apparently it's about the same time as the others. And they could have made it longer, and I don't think I would have noticed. Not like they had to go through all... Okay, I guess what I'm kind of saying is, if they were going to do anything, maybe they could have chosen one of the more interesting levels, like the kind of Ant-Man level, and made that what the Colosseum level was, and just montage through the Colosseum level.
It seems like they only included that because they had a concept of how to bring in the baseball thing. Like, oh, we need to drop some more clues.
True.
I mean, they could have done that. Like in the Ant-Man level, they could have climbed over a baseball that was in like, you know what I mean? They could have climbed over a baseball, or the Phantom Virus could have gone, strike out or something. I don't know. He could have said something corny and baseball related. Like, there's a number of things the virus could have said. Oh, even that, I think they've got enough baseball references.
Yeah.
Far too many. Now, I did like, like going on to the final level, I did like that they kind of were like able to meet themselves. I like seeing the old look, because I do definitely prefer the style of the more traditional kind of Scooby Doo outfits. But I did feel sorry for Velma, because it was kind of like everyone has had some form of development, some form of progression, and I can't tell which one of you is which.
The part that I'm confused about in terms of the final level is that all throughout the game, the virus is shown to recruit some like bad guys from the level. But do they just like recruit the old villains? Because I was kind of like making fun of the Phantom Virus in the Egypt level, where there's Anubis doing his own thing, a mummy doing his own thing, and the virus just recruits a camel to prance around in. Whereas this, it's like, who's his friends here? Is it literally just Iron Face, Tar Monster?
I mean, I think it's accepted that the villains are enough to stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah.
So it's not like a follow me and we will block them at the pier. They've been in that level so much longer than the virus has, that it's almost like he can't go in there and be like, okay, well,
But why don't they attack the virus?
Because ultimately they'd have the same goal in terms of programming, I imagine. Smash might know more about that than me, but that's my presumption.
I mean, possibly. But
I always thought the villains in the last level were like the actual villains in the game, and so either way they were going to run into those monsters, whether the virus was there or not.
Definitely.
And so my question though is, how is the Phantom Virus? I mean, I know he's made of code, so maybe he can manipulate code within code and stuff, but how does the Phantom Virus go up to these already programmed enemies and be like, hey, I'm in charge now, go get them,
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
No, neither does Velma saying, this is the last level, so the Phantom Virus is going to be even stronger. And it's like, why? Why is the Phantom Virus going to be stronger? It's going to be the same virus that Shaggy and Scooby electrocuted dressed as nurses in the first one, that the animals trample over.
And not even that it can be in the programming to make it more difficult on this level, because it doesn't even belong in this game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense, this part, and that's why I'm glad that they used it as a chance to kind of call back to the old, kind of some of the more classic villains. But even then, I'd argue that Gator Ghoul and Iron Face kind of stand out a bit as like, well, especially Iron Face, because Iron Face is pretty much just a person in a mask anyway.
Yeah.
It was also really good how they kind of called back to the cotton candy glob with like the tar monster falling into
When was the cotton candy glob introduced? Because for the life of me, I can't remember ever seeing them in an episode.
So the cotton candy glob is a little obscure. So technically the cotton candy glob was never a thing until Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. But to kind of connect everything, people have unofficially said that the cotton candy glob from Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed were a reference to these candy globs, not cotton candy globs, candy glob monsters in the new Scooby Doo movie series when they met Cass Elliot.
That's interesting. I'd never even thought about those kind of monsters being more, I guess, made up. Because even ones that you instantly assume are made up, like Chickenstein, they were in a pup named Scooby Doo. I think they looked a bit different.
Yeah.
But even they weren't made up. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know who. I mean, smASH. Do you have like a? If they did include one of a past villain, who would it be? Like, who would you choose if they were to include one? Not necessarily to replace another one, but who's like your dreamy villain?
In this movie?
Well, like who would you add?
Yeah, for this movie.
Okay, just because, this movie's like cyber chase and whatever, I think for the setting of it, I think it would have been really cool to have the 10,000 volt ghost and say, like, he did something, used one of his powers or something, and it was like so powerful that he blacked out the game or something, and they were like, oh no, do we have to go back to the beginning or whatever? Just kind of as a little funny moment or whatever. I think that would have been really cool just because of the setting of the movie.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
like you said, they could use that anyway. They could use it to make the game crash. They could use it to kind of almost make everything brighter or, like, I don't know. That could have been done really, really well.
Oh, or like, oh my gosh, they could have made it almost a bit of a threat. Now, this would have only worked, I guess, if it was handheld, but it would have been so cool if, like, halfway through the movie, like, a low battery sign just kept ticking down, and they somehow found a way to get the 10,000 volt ghost to charge up the gaming system.
That would have been great.
Oh,
That would have been good. Now, one thing that I also like about this level is when they get to split up and, like, Velma, Daphne, because it kind of foreshadows it a little bit at the start of the movie when they're splitting up to look for the phantom virus. And Shaggy's like, do we ever split up any other way? And then to see them kind of getting that different dynamics, a bit like, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, we did see from the special features that, I think, was it Gray was saying that they'd wanted to make some suggestions that maybe, like, virtual Fred could, like, flirt with real life Daphne, or the other way around, like, in-game Fred could flirt with real Daphne, and then the other one gets upset. And that was something that she said that she'd kind of suggested to a producer, I think. Do you think that that would have added to the movie? Do you think it would have taken away from it?
So, I think the problem with Scooby Doo and, like, this type of thing is they like to do this, like, throw in a new female character, and suddenly, Fred's falling for her and Daphne's jealous, or the other way around. They have a male character and Daphne's falling for him, type of thing. And they like to do it and act like, oh, this is gonna change everything, and then all it does is just, like, it just lives in that movie, and then the next Scooby thing comes out and they've moved on and they're never brought up or anything. And so I honestly am happy they didn't do that, although it would have been kind of funny because it's like a different Fred or a different Daphne, It's not like new different characters, it's like the same characters but different. I just think I am glad they didn't do it because, again, they make a big deal out of it and then just leave it be in that one movie and move on. Now, this would have made sense, though, to leave it and not do anything with it again, obviously, because they get out of the video game and obviously wouldn't see their virtual selves again, type of thing. But yeah, I think that's my opinion on it.
And it would have been a bit creepy if, say, they'd gone the route of, like, Fred blatantly ignoring Daphne for years while they've been a similar age, and then when Fred's presumably an adult, then sees, like, 17-year-old Daphne's and a bit like, oh boy, I'm gonna make a trap for this one. Like, that would be a little bit...
Oh, God.
A little bit sus.
I can't believe how you worded that. I'm gonna make a trap for this one. Oh, God.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So we were talking about with the cyber versions of themselves, they have more of their classic outfits and whatever. But since Shaggy and Scooby technically are unchanged, they gave Shaggy his red shirt, which he had for a little bit prior to these few movies, and then Scooby they gave a red collar, which he has never had. They just had to do it because he didn't have anything else. How do you feel about them doing that to differentiate themselves?
I mean, I feel like I understand why they did it, but I also feel like if they were going to do it for them, they needed to do something more for Velma, because it was kind of like Velma just... I almost felt sorry for their character, like, you know, it's quite clear they chose stylistic choices to make it look like Fred and Daphne had matured, like they were perhaps a decade or so older than they were with these original looks. You know, it's clear that they've noticed that Shaggy and Scooby needed something to differentiate, and it was almost like they'd forgotten Velma, and it's like, okay, I can see why they did it for Shaggy and Scooby, but they needed to do it for Velma as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have too much of, like, a negative thing to say, apart from it would have been nice to be able to differentiate Velma's beyond one of them has a kind of more metallic voice. I kind of feel like that kind of dragged after a while.
One had a pleated skirt, I think, and one had a darker jumper or something like that, but it wasn't anything where you were like, this is definitely the older one, this is definitely the younger one.
I would have even just preferred some references, like maybe Eric explains away, like, oh, you know, some of the colour palettes got mixed up, I'm still working on it, and Cyber Scooby could have just looked like Scooby Doo.
But this is what's hilarious, is it's Velma that
says...
That
would have been cool.
It's Velma that says, like, you know, clearly Eric's not kept up with our style choices. It's been a while since he's seen us, but she's the one that looks exactly the same.
It's true.
Like, it doesn't seem like she'd be the one mentioning it. Like, I can get Daphne like, oh, did I really wear that? Okay, that's fine, that's enough. But for Velma to be like, oh no, he's not seen us for a while, we don't look like this anymore, when she's literally looking in the mirror, it's just a bit like, okay.
No, but those...
You know what I wish they would have done too?
Yeah.
There was a part, I think it was like when the Velmas were with the old Iron Face. Anyway, they both lose their glasses at one point with each other. And I kind of wish that, like, when they handed each other their glasses or whatever, the Cyber Velma's glasses would have kind of like glitched out or something to kind of say like, oh, they have the wrong glasses or something.
Yeah, because how would they know that they'd got the right ones? Because they'd have the same sight of eye strength. Like, even if it was when they'd returned to the real world or something, someone held a magnet up and then they kind of pixelated.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just like a little bit of like a cliff like hanger thing at the end of the movie, like, they brought these back with them.
Mm-hmm.
I would have enjoyed, and I don't know if this like rumbles some of your stories in the next few Smash, but they went through the effort of bringing back the nostalgic original voice actors for the next movie. In a way, I kind of thought it would have been great fan service if they're going to put them in the classic outfits, to say maybe bring Heather North in to do Cyber Daphne, or, you know, Casey Kasem to be Cyber Shaggy. I think that would have sounded a bit better than just making them more robot voices to differentiate them.
I think that would have been cool too.
Now, I think I saw this on the Game Theorists. Are you Smash or Millie of the kind of... Are you a believer of the possible theory that because you see Shaggy in their red shirt in this, that means that Boo Brothers, Reluctant Werewolf, and Ghoul School are different additions to Eric's future video games? That explains why they're so outlandish and, I guess, a bit different from typical Scooby movies.
I can see where that's coming from, but my thing is, especially with the recent-ish movie, Curse of the 13th Ghost, I don't want to believe it because the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo series has Shaggy in a red shirt, that whole series. And so, like, I get where it's coming from, and I like the idea, but I just don't like it with the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo. If it was just for those three movies, Boo Brothers, Ghoul School, and Reluctant Werewolf, then yeah, I would totally say, of course. But
yeah, I get that. And what about Millie?
I don't know. I don't really. I think that as opposed to it symbolizing something, I think it honestly was just used to differentiate. I don't think they ever thought into it too much of this means that this movie, and this movie has to be considered as well. I think it's very much just okay, we need a way to differentiate the characters. What do we do? So, but that also kind of leads me on to like just pointing out, you know, at the top of like the waterfall when the two Scoobies are trying to get rid of their monster. Did you two notice how like they both are wearing the same colour collar for a second? I think they both have a red
really?
one on. Did you notice that, JayBee? I think I paused it to show you.
When I was a kid, I think, but I always just kind of thought I guess I accepted. Oh, I guess error.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
And
but it's interesting.
I guess that what makes
in.
it does make it difficult. Like if you are deliberately making a stylistic choice to kind of differentiate between the two, it then makes it quite difficult because you need to kind of continue on with that. But there is the scene where they stood at the top of the waterfall when they've been on the log rafts. Both the Scoobies at either side wear a red collar for about 10 seconds, I think.
Yeah, and they always, well, not always, they tended to have issues like that. Like, even when we were watching, I think, what was it, the Platinum Diamond Hanna-Barbera collection of of Scooby-Doo Era seasons 1 and 2. There's often times when one of the characters would put their hand down and the whole hand would turn green.
I can't say I've noticed that.
You pointed it out to me. I think it was in the episode where they go to Tokyo and there's those kind of two ghosts and Daphne's like in a pile of fish and then the hand just turns green.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So, okay. I don't know, it's not perfect, but needless to say, I guess they defeat their villains. And does anyone have any opinions about how they do it or who's matched up with who?
See, that kind of leads on to a question that I had for both of you. And that is, how would you feel if you were kind of paired up with yourself from, say, maybe 5 years ago? And which one of the villains would you have chosen to defeat? Maybe start with
I guess
Smash,
maybe we can start with Smash, because I'm convinced I would have been killed.
So if I was with myself 5 years ago, oh boy, I don't know how far we would get. I think we could probably only take on Iron Face. I'm like the lowest of the low. Like, I don't know. I don't think we get very far alone. 5 years ago, I think I was just graduating high school and had no idea what I was doing. I still don't know, but here I am. But I don't think I would get very far at all.
See, I think that like I don't know. I think that Iron Face is like I was going for like a Marvel route there. I think that Iron Face is a rather, I don't know, I'd have said that was quite a brave choice. See, for me, like, I think the Creeper looks like they move quite slowly. they'd have been like that for me.
I
They'd have
forgot the
been the
creeper
one
was
that I
there.
was like, okay. So I think for you to say Iron Face, maybe that's like there is some level of bravery there.
I would agree, because they just look all big and hulking and stuff. Like,
Yeah, they come in riding like sharks or something, don't they?
yeah.
What about you, JB?
My
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say my biggest thing is I was like, I cannot do the tar monster. Like, if I had to go against the tar monster, just game over. We're done now.
Yeah, because it's all like you can't punch it or anything. It's just icky.
Yeah.
Oh, unless you had a fire extinguisher, you find one of
Yay.
them.
Yeah, true.
You know.
It's an amusement park. They've got to have one somewhere in case one of the rides catches on fire or something,
Well,
right?
if Eric's coded in health and safety, which judging by their attitude, probably not, but you can hope.
Yeah, the broken roller coaster.
How old?
I mean, what attention to detail is that? Because obviously, it's just like a set. No one.
Yeah.
It's just like programming. No one's gonna actually ride that roller coaster in programming, and yet it was still broken. But anyway, JB, it's cutting away from your time to answer. Who would you choose, and how would you feel about working with yourself?
How old was I 5 years ago?
17.
Oh, so I would have been in peak condition. like literally, chocolate James Bond. I think I could have done all of them then. I think I could have like got the
Okay, I'll
tar
rephrase
monster.
it then. How do you think like 17-year-old you would feel about working with you now and
Oh no.
and who would you choose?
I think he would very much feel like he's been paired up with his granddad, like, because he would be there with his top off. He'd be punching the tar monster, and I'd just be there like, "Oh, my back, I can't do it." But no, I think honestly the crocodile, because
Oh, you're brave. That'd
No.
be the last one.
no, because if you manage to restrain their jaw, I don't know. I'm not okay. Not the crocodile, the creeper, because he's kind of just a bit like a creepy guy, isn't he? He's like a guy.
Yeah.
If you push him over, you give him a good shove, and he falls on the ground.
He was quite easily
Yeah,
defeated with
true.
the trapdoor, wasn't he?
You've then just got to find some sticks or something and smack him with it. They'll just cause him harm. That's all you need to do. Shove him in the water.
Okay. I am glad I asked that question. It certainly got a good response. I'm happy.
No, if I'm teaming up with 17, like that's like Jump Street.
Oh my god.
Because I'm Jonah Hill.
Okay, so does anybody else have any questions about kind of being inside the levels?
Oh, I'm just gonna see my notes. You know what? I don't think I do, you know. I think I'm quite happy.
I will say my one thing. This is a weird balance thing for me because like for one that we haven't talked about yet, Legend of the Vampire. I love that they kind of have this end battle with the monster at the end of that movie. But like with this one, where they kind of have an end battle with the Phantom Virus, I almost feel like it's the same way with the Witch's Ghost, where I felt like it went on just a little too long. I was like, a little too much is happening. Can we wrap up?
You know what? I'm
but
agreeing
just
with you there.
Random 2 cents.
Because here's one thing I was going to mention. They don't even defeat the Phantom Virus. They just grab the box of Scooby Snacks, which in every other level has proven to have the exact same effect on the gang as the Phantom Virus, because presumably, because they all beamed in at the same time, they were all living by the same kind of rules. So logically, by just getting the Scooby Snacks, they should all be transported to the outside world along with the virus.
But
Yeah.
should they? Because if the original characters grab them, they just go back to level 1. Surely they should just go back to level 1.
That's a good point. Unless they go back to where they originated.
Because this is an issue that I have, like, moving on, which kind of linking, is when they get out of the game, they manage to zap Scooby out of the game. It's one of, like, I think the post-credit scenes where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got a visit from an old friend. And it's like, okay, well, if you could zap them out, why couldn't you zap them out, like, zap the actual ones out when they went in? Because the way they got out
Yeah.
was completing the game, but they've already said that if they complete the game, they just go back to level 1. So if you can zap them out when they're just on a continuous loop,
To be fair,
you could have
though,
zapped them out when they...
I would argue that the gang probably had some not very pleasant things to say about Eric. Logically, like, oh, so we've played your game. I'll be honest, man, it's a good debut, but this is wrong, that's wrong, this sucks, and who the heck made up the rule about not being able to beam people out halfway through? Can you change that, please? And I'd assume that he'd made alterations.
I mean, are we to assume that the reason the gang, the characters of the gang were stuck on level 10 is because even Eric's like, oh yeah, even I haven't completed this level? Because they say that it's because they don't want to restart and go back to level 1. But I personally assumed that it was because Eric said that he hadn't completed that level, so that's why they were stuck there.
I like that a lot. Because if they were making the conscious decision to play on, that would imply that they're fully sentient, which is very scary. Like, they are just living forever in 10 levels.
And I mean, once the Scooby Snacks is taken by the others, do they lose their opportunity to progress back to level 1? Does it
I assume it
respawn or
respawns.
something?
I'd assume it respawns. But again, I'm not really sad. I feel like they were going for this emotional thing at the end that doesn't not work, because I don't think it was overly meant to. But they try and make this thing where it's a bit sad and dramatic to say goodbye to the cyber doubles, and I don't really get that. Beyond that, though, when they get outside, I guess they just reveal that it was, what's his name? Is it Todd? Tim? Ted? What's his name? What's the guy's name? Bill, yeah. So Bill gets taken into custody, and I like that. Like, I don't like it, but I like how it wasn't the professor, because they always just seem like such a genuine character, turning down the potential of reward money because they just wanted to see their students succeed. Although,
one question about them needing that reward money: if Shaggy and Scooby at the end can just print out burgers or scan out burgers, why did they need to win $250,000 when surely they could literally just type $250,000 and it prints?
I mean, they could cure world hunger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of implications, and I think you even really compared it to like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs towards the end.
Yeah, like where they almost like had food just falling from the sky whenever it was needed. Just, yeah, that was the comparative that I drew, was just, it was there was no supply. You physically didn't need to buy anything again.
No, and I agree, and
I wanted to say before we got too far away about like the weird kind of sentimental goodbye to the cyber gang type of thing.
That was
I'm
strange.
wondering if they were told or if it had just been, thought of. I just wonder if, like, Warner Brothers kind of said, okay, after Zombie Island was a success, like, okay, you're going to do 3 more movies, and then basically what I'm trying to say is I wonder if they kind of thought this was going to be the closing to Scooby Doo overall, and so it was kind of them saying goodbye to our original people, our original, versions of ourselves. Goodbye, Scooby Doo, type of thing. That's what I'm kind of wondering. Like, was this originally planned to be the closure of Scooby Doo, like the official? Because Zombie Island was trying to rejuvenate Scooby Doo, and so maybe now they were like, okay, now that we've done this, we can officially close out Scooby Doo. But then obviously here we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. That's a really good point. I guess a way that maybe I'd thought about it is because they'd aged up, like the characters in game were quite young variants of themselves, so I guess my presumption was they were never going to go backwards, and so we'd certainly never see them looking like that again, which obviously we have done. So I don't know if it was just like a, maybe not the end, but certainly a, okay, well, you know, we aren't going to see them looking like this again. This is like looking back at the original Scooby Doo. Like, kind of wave goodbye to it kind of thing.
I mean, it definitely feels like a closing, I'll say that, because if you look at the past, like, couple of films, the past 3 films, all of their post-credit scenes have just been 2-second jokes. You know, it's you know, in the last one, it was the aliens popping out, and it was just Scooby in a mask, and he laughs. But this has, like, full-on segments of every character telling you, almost like they were very aware that they were filming a movie.
Yeah, almost like they were saying what they liked about the experience of being part of Scooby.
So it definitely seemed a bit like a farewell. Unless, I don't know, why else would they have included such a cool post-credit scene, like, that wasn't in the main film? Because I don't know... I mean, I always used to watch to the end credits when I was like little because I think I was kind of strange. But I'm just wondering how many people just didn't see that post-credit scene until it was on DVD.
I don't think I'd known there was a post-credit scene. I think I just would wait till the movie had finished, the titles
credits,
rolled, and
pop
then it was like...
pop the tape out, pop the disc out or something. I don't know. I mean... I guess smASH. Were you aware of the post-credit scene when you first saw it, or like did you hear about it on the internet?
So I was not aware of it. One of my childhood friends where I used to live had this movie on VHS, and so like, you know, we'd watch it and whatever. I know, can you believe he had it and I didn't? But we would watch it and, you know, kind of get to the credits and be like, okay, done, woohoo. It wasn't until I got the DVD myself that I was like, oh, there's more to it.
And it is gorgeous though. Like, they have like freeze frames, is that the right word? And the artwork just looks... It looks banging.
There's a couple of things... There's one thing I don't like about it. Only one. And that is... I think Daphne's character is a bit all over the place. Like, we see in one of the bits of the montage that she's, like, there fighting when... Was it Fred was, like, about to get knocked out, so she, like, grabs a broom or something and does some amazing martial arts. And then... we just see her transported back so quickly to, like, looking in front of the mirror, quite, like, appearance obsessed.
I mean, I disagree.
Then we see in the post-credit scene, she's like, oh, it's, you know, really great when you're in this temperature, you don't have to worry about what you wear. And I just feel like they make some quite forward developments, you know, where it's not just this person's falling in a trap, to then kind of regress.
Yeah, but you're triggering me now, because I would wholeheartedly disagree with that. I would say that being, like, you know, a strong fighting person and caring about your appearance or being innately fashion-centric can't be mutually exclusive.
No.
And it is so well exemplified in, say, Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, when she uses her makeup as a way to get out of the trap and then starts, you know, slamming down with the Black Knight Ghost. I feel like that's kind of what Daphne has become. She might be looking in the mirror 1 second, but if, like, a tar monster sneaks up behind her, that mirror's being shoved in the tar monster's eye.
Yeah.
And that's my thing.
I guess maybe it's because with the mirror thing, it's more the old Daphne than the new one.
I mean, it is
like,
true.
They're like, oh no, like, I look fat in the mirror. Then the creeper turns up and they just kind of take a step backwards. Whereas I think it's the older Daphne that's, like, almost trying to do that, like, really independent, like, little stamp where she opens the floor and traps the creeper and stuff.
How do you like it?
Yeah, like, I don't know. So maybe it's just more of a characteristic of the younger variant of Daphne to kind of show a bit of a differentiation.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I like the changes in attitudes between them, because the others don't really change when they encounter each other. there's no discussions about, oh, look how similar we are. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Apart from, I guess, Velma, they both lose their glasses at the same time. Whereas Daphne, they go out of the way to show how different
and
they
I guess
are.
Shaggy's just always been Shaggy. They just sit and eat and then get very scared, and that's just what they do here.
I can relate. Oh. But,
I think that concludes all the notes that I've got in terms
the
of
only
questions.
thing I've written is the characters seem self-aware that they were in a movie, and that's kind of not really relevant.
So, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to say or ask Smash?
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else for this one.
Okay, so that just leaves to do the final evaluation. So, smash or pass for Scooby Doo and the Cyber Chase. JayBee, coming to you first as always. Smash or pass?
Well, I think it's fair to say that out of all the films we've watched, I feel like there's more that I can pick apart about this than, with Alien Invaders and more than Zombie Island. I think it's got about as much things that I kind of notice as Witch's Ghost, except the difference is I think the Witch's Ghost is a bit of a slog to get to, whereas this, it goes by so quickly. There's some really good music in it, and like I say, I think out of all the Scooby-Doo movies that are animated, this is the one that I've seen the most. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I am gonna do a big smash on this. This is a smash, and I don't think I'd have it any other way. This is going to be a movie that I'm still going to be watching in 50 years' time. So, Millie, will you smash or pass Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase?
I think I have to agree with most of what you're saying. It's certainly my most viewed Scooby-Doo movie. I also think that as a child watching this, I used to look at it and just think that it was incredibly, almost revolutionary with some of the technology that they were looking at. So to that end, I think it was quite interesting. We certainly were progressing away from, witches and aliens. This was almost stuff that I would say was more real world scary, which is technology. It can be quite it can be quite unpredictable and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I guess just because it seemed that it could be linked more to the human life, that it was a bit like, oh my gosh. There were a few faults with it, we were kind of picking at through it, but ultimately, even the really obvious baseball references, when I first watched this, I was very young, but I just was so engrossed in the movie that I didn't even think about the baseball references. Completely missed every single one of them. And so I was still like, oh my gosh, at the end. Don't know how that happened, but yeah. Ultimately, I love the movie, and I would have to say that this is a smash. So, that just leaves you, Smash. Would you say smash or pass for Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase?
Alright, so first, I wanted to kind of bring up that both of you guys said that this is one that you feel like you've watched a lot or the most or whatever. I have this weird theory with these 4 movies that we just are wrapping up that we reviewed. So, Zombie Island, I feel like, is the Scooby-Doo movie that, everybody has seen. Even if you're not an avid Scooby fan or you like horror, just everybody has seen Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island at some point, I feel like. Then we have Witch's Ghost, and I feel like that one has the Hex Girls movie, let's say. If people don't remember anything else, they remember, oh, that's where the Hex Girls came from. Then we have Alien Invaders, and that one's the least talked about of these 4. The one that a lot of people kind of brush over, and not that they don't like it, but it's not as memorable. But the main thing being from that one, is Amber and Crystal leaving, and that whole emotional part. Now, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, for whatever reason I have picked up on, again, even if you're not an avid Scooby fan or whatever, everybody owns this one in some format. I don't know why, I don't know how, even if it's still just on VHS. I talked to so many different people. Of course, Scooby Doo's brought up, and somehow I have picked up on that everybody owns this one, and everybody remembers this one because they own it. And I was even just talking to my best friend last night, that I moved in with recently, and like movies and stuff. And anyway, Scooby Doo was brought up, and she was like, every time someone mentions Scooby Doo or whatever, the first thing that pops into my head is the one when they go into like these different video games and whatever. And I was like, funny you say that the night before we're gonna talk about this. Okay, but so that's just my weird little theory. Everybody knows Scooby Doo on Zombie Island. Witch's Ghost has become the Hex Girls movie. Alien Invaders is the hidden gem, and Cyber Chase is the one that everybody owns. So here's my thing. This one is a little more keen to Witch's Ghost with me. I don't love this one as much as, say, Zombie Island or Alien Invaders, but I definitely do like this one more than Witch's Ghost. So my answer is going to be a very middle ground. I'm still going to say I'm going to smash this one, but not very strongly. But enough to be like, oh, you should, like, there's no reason not to watch this one, but I will just say it's not one of my favorite.
I like that a lot, and just piggybacking off what you're saying a bit, I'm gonna make things a bit interesting for a few moments, okay? So I guess this is the only bit of Scooby news that we're probably gonna cover in this podcast. I don't really want to make this like a This Week in Scooby Doo, but they did very recently announce Hex Girls Funko Pops, and they look amazing. But my question to both of you is, out of all the 4 films that we've covered so far, if they were to release a single Funko Pop or a line of Funko Pops about either of the movies, which set would you want the most, for example? So would you like an Eric Funko Pop or the Cat Demons Funko Pop? So I'm going to probably hand over to Millie first, because I like putting Millie on the spot.
I'm going to say that, I don't know, because we've already, ordered the Hex Girl ones. I don't think I want to say Witch's Ghost because that's the only ones I'd want from there. For me personally, I think you could get a really good Phantom Virus Funko Pop.
Oh.
So I think that's the one that I'd probably choose. What about you, smASH?
Okay, so first off, since you said Phantom Virus, I'm gonna send you guys a picture. I swear, I have a picture for like everything. But a few years ago, my girlfriend and I were bored one night, and we were like, we should draw something. She loves to draw. She does art all the time, and I'm just like, I like to draw for fun. Look at my stick figure, Anyway, so we were like, we should draw, like, give each other something to draw, and then draw it and show each other. So, I suggested that we each do a Scooby Doo villain, and I gave her the Phantom Virus, and it is one of my most favorite pieces that I have seen her do. So I'm gonna send you guys that picture of her Phantom Virus that she did, and I gotta convince her to let me have it and frame it, because I'm like, girl, I want that. Anyway, but my answer for this is I would love them to do a Crystal and Amber line, but like they have the human version. You can get like either of them individually or a pack, and then a pack of them is in their alien forms. I think that would be really cool.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I actually would love that. Or just imagine they do like movie moments Funko Pops. I could just imagine an epic one of those two just like holding off one of the MP tractors.
That would have been cool. Mm-hmm.
You're right. I need that in my life. That is amazing. But I guess that kind of concludes things for this episode. The next one, what is it? Is it Legend of the Vampire?
I think.
Another very, very nostalgic one that I am very, very excited to talk about.
I mean, going on to what Smash was saying about The Witch's Ghost, could this be just Hex Girls 2?
Maybe.
Or do you think it'll stand on its own?
We don't know.
So
True,
guys,
we'll have to see.
So guys, if you do enjoy watching along with these, please make sure you check out that movie before next week. As always, JayBee will be premiering, so if you want to join in the conversations, you can. JayBee and I will be starting to do our watch through of that movie in a couple of days. So, oh my gosh, it is certainly one that I really like. So I do think I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So, if you do want to hear about that, please make sure to keep along, subscribe to the channel, like this video. We're looking forward to doing all of these, especially with Smash, because I'm definitely a novice myself, so...
But he certainly is not, so make sure you go and check out his channel. That, of course, will be in the description.
Down below. So, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee, Milly, and Smash.